back to MKTG Mindset Episode 5. Today we will dive into a story that, well, on the surface, it seems pretty simple, just another design tool, right?
Yeah.
But underneath it's actually, I think, a really profound blueprint for building a global empire, redefining a whole industry and empowering millions. We were talking about Canva.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission for this deep dive is basically to peel back the layers of its meteoric rise. We want to unearth the strategic decisions, those surprising aha moments, and the tactical plays that really transformed it.
Yeah.
From just a niche idea into this indispensable marketing powerhouse for everyone, really small business owners, students.
Exactly, everyone.
We're not just looking at what they did, but really how and why it works so spectacularly well.
It is an absolutely fascinating case study, really. So many companies, they aspire to democratize something or, achieve that kind of viral growth.
It's the dream.
But Canva actually did it. And understanding their journey, it isn't just about admiring their success. It's about identifying a framework, maybe even repeatable, for building something genuinely impactful and something widely adopted. There are lessons here for pretty much anyone, I think, regardless of their field.
Absolutely. And, when you look at a company that feels like an overnight success, the real story, it often starts much, much earlier, doesn't it?
Oh, always. Yeah.
For Canva, that takes us back to 2013. Founders Melanie Perkins, Cliff Obrecht, and Cameron Adams. But the true genesis, the real spark, was Melanie's earlier venture, Fusion Books.
Fusion Books.
Yeah. And this wasn't just a stepping stone. It was like the crucible where the core problem Canva would eventually solve became super clear. Can you tell us more about that initial pain point? What was going on there?
Well, what's truly fascinating here is how directly Fusion Books informed Canva. I mean, Melanie was helping schools create yearbooks.
Right, yearbooks.
Okay. And she saw firsthand just the immense frustration people had, with the traditional complex design software out there.
Oh, yeah. The big names?
Exactly. You needed extensive training. You needed expensive licenses. And even then, simple tasks felt like wrestling a digital octopus,
Uh-huh. Yeah, I know that feeling.
It just created this huge barrier to entry for anyone who wasn't a professional designer. So Fusion Books showed her the scale of that frustration and the massive untapped demand for a simpler way. This wasn't just like a minor inconvenience. It was a fundamental obstacle stopping small organizations from effectively communicating visually.
So, the problem was the pain of complex software. Their mission statement then, to democratize design, that really became their North Star, didn't it?
Absolutely. Nailed it.
It's a powerful phrase, but what did that actually mean specifically for their product, for their strategy? How did they translate that, ambitious goal into features that genuinely empowered users? Users without any tech skills, no design background.
Yeah, that's the crux of it, really. Democratizing design wasn't just a slogan for them. It was like a product mandate. Yeah. It meant empowering literally everyone, not just, design students or marketers in big companies.
Right.
But the local bakery owner needing a flyer, the student doing a presentation, the community organizer needing social media graphics, the influencer building their brand online.
All those people.
Exactly. They identified these specific user groups, and crucially, their need wasn't just for a cheaper tool, it was for a fundamentally different experience. So they focused on workflows that completely bypassed traditional design complexities, allowing users to get professional results, but with minimal effort. This focus on the user's problem, not just the tech. That was critical.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. And that leads us right into what I think is the cornerstone of Canva's huge success, their product and growth strategy, built around that brilliant freemium model.
The freemium approach.
It's easy to say, give some features away for free. But the real genius, I think, is in what they gave away. And what they held back. How did they strike that balance? To get rapid adoption, but still nudge users towards premium, like Canva Pro or Canva for Teams.
Yeah, it's a fine line, isn't it? And they walked it brilliantly. It wasn't just about giving away, basic stripped down features.
Right.
It was about giving away enough genuine value for free. Enough that users could actually achieve professional-looking results right away.
Okay, so the free tier is actually useful.
Oh, definitely. It's not crippled. It's genuinely useful. You can create stunning social media posts, presentations, invites, whatever, without ever paying a cent.
Right.
And that builds immense trust and familiarity. Then, the brilliance of their upsell, it lay in features that remove friction specifically for the power user. or the professional.
Ah, okay. So targeted upgrade.
Exactly. Think about the brand kit, right? Keeps branding consistent. Or the magic resize tool saves hours of manual resizing for different platforms.
That's huge.
Huge time saver. Or even just the background remover tool. For many people, that one feature is worth the price of admission alone.
I can see that.
So these aren't just like nice to haves for their target professional audience. They become workflow essentials. They make the pro subscription feel less like an extra cost and more like an essential efficiency upgrade.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. You experience the value first. And the product itself, that super intuitive drag and drop interface, that was clearly a game changer.
Foundational, yeah.
But beyond just the interface, what were some of the other, maybe less obvious product decisions that really enabled that virtually no learning curve experience?
Good question.
And how did they leverage that ease of use for such incredible, like, almost viral growth?
Well, okay, the drag and drop is foundational, like you said. But the real magic, I think, the thing that truly enabled no learning curve was the template library.
The templates, right?
It's massive, professionally designed, constantly updated. Users don't start from a scary blank canvas, staring at a blinking cursor.
Yeah, the terror of the blank page.
Exactly. They just pick a stunning pre-made template. It's already perfectly proportioned, styled. Then they just swap out text and images. Boom.
So it lowers the barrier massively.
Massively reduces the cognitive load. And beyond that, think about the integrated stock photos, the icons, the fonts. It meant users almost never had to leave the platform to find assets.
Right. It's all in one place.
Streamlining the whole creative process.
Okay. And the viral growth part, how does that happen?
Right. So viral growth. It definitely wasn't just a happy accident. They understood something fundamental about their user base.
Which was?
Small business owners, educators, students, content creators. They're inherently social people. They naturally share their creations.
Makes sense.
So Canva strategically leaned into this. They didn't just market to these groups. They enabled these groups to become their evangelists.
Turning users into marketers.
Pretty much, like the Canva for Education program, offering free pro accounts to teachers and students. That created this massive organic network. Teachers introduce it in classrooms, students share it with their friends, and suddenly entire networks are using and recommending Canva. It just spread.
Wow.
And, if we connect this to the bigger picture, a decision that often gets overlooked from their early days was their immediate commitment to localization.
Localization, you mean translating it?
Yes, but much more than just translation. They weren't just translating the interface into over 100 languages.
Okay.
They were building culturally relevant templates, incorporating local holidays, different design aesthetics, even understanding specific social media trends in different regions.
So really tailoring it.
Deeply tailoring it. This wasn't an afterthought like, oh, we should translate this later. It was a foundational strategy. It allowed them to truly think global from day one.
Instead of trying to adapt an American product later on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That deep, culturally sensitive approach was absolutely crucial, I think, to their widespread international adoption. Really key.
That proactive global thinking is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. And speaking of strategy, Canva's marketing approach. It really feels like a masterclass, doesn't it?
It really does.
But not in the traditional, aggressive ad spend way. It seemed less about shouting about features and much more about genuinely helping users.
Aye.
How did their extensive use of education marketing build trust so effectively? What did that actually look like?
Oh, it was a game changer. Seriously. Their education marketing wasn't just, here's how to use this button in Canva.
Right, not just a user manual.
No. It was, here's how to create a compelling social media graphic. Or here's the psychology of color in branding. Or design principles for non-designers.
Teaching that why not just the how?
Precisely. They provided free tutorials, webinars, really comprehensive blog guides, even online courses that taught users how to be better visual communicators overall.
So they became a resource.
A hugely valuable resource for design knowledge, not just a tool provider.
Yeah.
This built immense credibility and trust. It's like if you teach someone how to fish, they'll keep coming back to your pond.
Yes, that's exactly what Canva did. They helped their users become more skilled, which in turn made Canva itself more indispensable to them.
That's clever. And that must tie into the social proof aspect you mentioned.
Yeah, seamlessly. They were constantly highlighting user-generated content UGC, designs actually created by their users.
Okay.
So this wasn't just showing off what Canva could do in theory. It was showcasing what people like you were actually achieving with the platform. Seeing amazing designs from, other small business owners or nonprofits, that was incredibly compelling and aspirational.
Yeah, if they can do it, I can do it.
Exactly that feeling. And then there were their strategic partnerships. Now, this raises an important question. How did they manage to expand their reach so broadly into professional workflows, often without traditional sales teams?
Good question. How?
By integrating with the major platforms people were already using. Think Google Drive, HubSpot, Dropbox.
Embedding themselves.
Right. If you're already managing your documents or your CRM in those tools, having Canva seamlessly integrated means you can design right there or easily pull in assets without friction.
Makes it super convenient.
These weren't just logos on a partner page. They embedded Canva directly into the daily workflows of millions of professionals, making it not just a standalone tool, but kind of an extension of their existing professional ecosystem.
Very smart integration.
And finally, underpinning a lot of this was their commitment to purpose-driven marketing. Things like Canva for nonprofits, Canva for education.
Right, giving it away for free to certain groups.
Exactly. And this wasn't just, good PR, although it was that too. By offering free premium access to these organizations, they not only solidified a really loyal user base, but they also demonstrated that their mission, democratizing design, extended beyond just making a profit.
It showed they cared.
It really resonated because it showed they genuinely cared about empowering good causes, and that cultivated this profound sense of loyalty and community advocacy. People felt good using Canva.
That focus on genuine empowerment, the seamless integration, is really powerful.
And speaking of community, that feels like such a massive part of Canva's appeal, doesn't it?
Yes.
Oh, huge. It's not just software. It feels more like a movement sometimes. How did they manage to build such a strong brand around, like approachability, support, inclusivity, making users feel like they're part of something bigger? There's a real pride there.
It was incredibly intentional. You can see it.
Yeah.
They actively fostered sharing. They celebrated user-generated content constantly. They created platforms where users could learn from each other, share tips.
Like forums and groups.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even sell their own templates in the Canva marketplace eventually. This wasn't just about providing a product. It was about deliberately building an entire ecosystem.
Yeah.
And crucially, they listened. They listened intently to user feedback, and you could actually see that feedback directly influencing new features, improvements.
So users felt heard.
Absolutely. And when users feel heard and valued like that, they become incredibly loyal advocates. It creates this really powerful, positive feedback loop. And that leads to the evangelism you mentioned.
Directly. This whole community-centric approach, it directly led to users becoming genuine evangelists. They weren't just, spreading the word casually.
Right.
They were showing up at events wearing Canva t-shirts, creating their own online groups dedicated to Canva, genuinely helping new users get started. It created this organic word-of-mouth engine that, frankly, traditional advertising just can't replicate.
No amount of ad money buys that.
Exactly. And then to layer on top of that, their consistent commitment to social responsibility, supporting various social causes, giving back to the community, it just further endeared them to their user base. It reinforced this idea that this was a company with a strong ethical compass, not just a profit motive. And that really cemented that emotional connection for a lot of users.
Okay, so after this deep dive into Canva's journey, what are the key takeaways, the actionable lessons for you, the listener, the learner, the creator, the marketer out there? What can we really pull from this remarkable story?
Yeah, let's nail those down.
Okay, first, I think it's clear that freemium models can be incredibly effective, but...
Big but.
Yeah, big but.
Yeah.
Only if your product genuinely delights users. It's not about giving away junk. It's about giving away real value, making that free tier so compelling that users want the premium features because they already love what they have.
Right. The free version has to be good.
Exactly. And that requires a deeply intuitive, high-quality core product to begin with. Second takeaway for me, teaching builds trust much more effectively than just selling.
Oh, absolutely.
Canva established itself as this invaluable resource. They educated users not just on the tool, but on how to be better designers, better communicators.
Yeah.
They empower their audience.
Yeah.
And that fostered immense loyalty and really cemented their authority in the whole design space.
I don't agree more.
And third, maybe the simplest but hardest.
Yeah.
Simplicity wins.
Yes. Often overlooked.
In a world where software often just adds more features, more complexity, Canva consistently prioritized ease of use. They prove that an incredibly intuitive interface, plus that huge template library, could attract millions, even if it meant sacrificing some, super pro niche features that more complex software has.
And maintaining that simplicity as you grow, that's the real challenge.
Definitely. But they've largely done it. What else would you add?
Well, to add to those critical points, I think the importance of community building just cannot be overstated.
Right, the evangelists.
Exactly. Engaged, passionate users, they become your most effective, your most authentic marketers. They spread the word organically, they offer support to each other, they provide invaluable feedback that fuels your product development. It's just far more powerful and frankly more cost-effective in the long run than just relying on traditional paid ads.
Yeah, building that loyal tribe.
And finally, a crucial lesson, I think, from Canva's enduring success. Think global from day one.
The localization piece.
Yes. Canva's early, deliberate localization efforts, remember, not just translating but culturally adapting, that was absolutely foundational to its widespread adoption and its global appeal today. It positioned them as a truly international company right from the outset.
Instead of an afterthought.
Right. Not an American product trying to expand later. That proactive approach to global markets, it was an absolute game changer for them.
Wow. Okay, that really wraps up our deep dive into Canva's remarkable ascent then. Their story is, well, it's a powerful reminder, isn't it?
Yeah.
That true innovation isn't always about some crazy breakthrough technology.
Often it's not.
Often it's about democratizing existing skills, simplifying complex tasks, and building that passionate, engaged community around something genuinely useful.
Well said.
So as you go about your own projects, maybe personal, maybe professional, here's something to think about. What complex problem out there could you simplify for others? How could you maybe democratize a skill you have, or a piece of knowledge, or even a service you offer? Make it accessible to a wider audience. And how might that shift in perspective? How might that lead to unexpected, maybe even exponential growth in what you're doing?
Understanding those underlying principles, simplification, empowerment, community, it really is key, I think, to unlocking new possibilities. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today.
Hit like, share, subscribe to not missing this channel. See you next episode.